from the side, ref.
Welcome back to In From The Side. This is our second show of the week. We're going to give you a roundup of all the remaining rugby that we saw over the weekend. We did cover the Springboks versus France in an earlier show. Go and check that out in our YouTube channel. But before we get into the show, welcome back Matthew Rhodes.
G'day, mates. How are you, buddy? How are you from?
Yeah, like a man. I'm still lekker from 5 minutes ago, bro. Love talking rugby.
Exactly.
There's nothing better to do on a Wednesday. Matt, let's get into it. Before we get into it, for the folks out there, I'm going to say this in every single video. If you haven't done so yet, please go and subscribe to the In From The Side YouTube channel. The link is in the description below. We are going to move this show onto its own dedicated channel in 2026, and we would love for you, all of you loyal subscribers and watchers, to show us some love on the new channel. So please go and do that before we get into the show. But let's get into the show because we've got lots to talk about. Matthew, great rugby over the weekend. I mean, again, my wife is just fed up with me on Saturdays because that's all I do. I'm just glued to the TV, man. It was just awesome to watch all of it.
I think I speak for all the boykies out there. We're all in the same boat as you. We've all got wives looking at us going, it's not rugby again. And we're like, it's rugby, and it's great rugby. It's the Autumn Nation series.
It is.
And there were some humdingers on the weekend. So, yeah, let's get straight into it, brother.
Yeah.
What's the first game that
before we get to the humdingers? Yeah, before we get to the humdingers, let's talk about a damp squib, as you would call it. Ireland, Japan, at the Aviva. I was not impressed by Ireland, and I don't know. I mean, last week, not that they set it out of their camp, but in the public forums, there was a lot of people saying Ireland were rusty against the All Blacks, but fuck, they're still rusty when they play Japan. I know they didn't pick probably their strongest side, but you would have expected them to just show a lot more dominance. I know they pulled away at the end, but it was unconvincing for me. I think Japan, they were plucky and they stayed in the game, and it was only really towards the end in the last quarter that Ireland pulled away. But I wasn't that impressed with the Irish.
I agree. I think the scoreline favoured the Irish a little bit. And fair play to Japan. They've had a heavy toll taken on them of late, and they've chased some leather. But I thought that they were, they played an expansive game. They stuck in it. Their forwards were good. I thought Michael Leach led that kind of charge from their side really, really well. He's been a stalwart for them for many years, obviously, ex-chief player. And I think they just seem to, again, stay in it. And then right at the end, the last 20, Ireland seemed to run away with it, and there were some soft tries. And so, from a Japanese perspective, I think they'd be happier than the Irish. And from the Irish, they'd look at the scoreline and it flatters them. But really, it wasn't a great spectacle.
Yeah, and I mean that thing that we've been talking about the Irish for years now is their first 15 or their starting 23 is top notch, right? They're one of the best teams in the world. But beyond that, they're thin. And I think with New Zealand, you're starting to see it. They're building a bit of that depth. With France, you're definitely seeing it, although they weren't, convincing over the weekend. They still have depth. And then obviously South Africa. I think those are the only three sides. For Ireland to be real contenders at the next World Cup, they've got to figure out how to blood some youngsters. I don't think they've dealt with the loss of Sexton, Murray, Cian Healy, all of these experienced guys. I don't think they've had a good transition plan to start blooding these youngsters. But there's still a quality side. But yeah, the underwhelming performance. I would be frustrated if I was an Irish supporter.
Yeah, still a quality side. Still a good coach. They're getting back into the swing of knowing each other again after his little stint with the Lions. I don't know. It was underwhelming. That's maybe what if you're New Zealand, South Africa, France, England, even at the moment looking at Ireland, I don't think you give them the respect that they deserve, but I don't think you're worried. Like there was nothing that would suggest that they are the number one team to beat. And that is by far and away the sculpt that the South Africans have at the moment. Everyone hates us, and they all want to beat us, and we don't care. So happy days.
It's the only game Rassie hasn't won, is he hasn't beaten Ireland in Ireland. It's the one thing he hasn't done.
Give
So
us 14 days.
anyway,
Give us
I'm a week
14 days.
ahead of myself. Yeah,
Correct.
I'm a week ahead of myself. But
Anyway,
before we get to Ireland, we need to play Italy, and Italy had a massive upset against the Aussies. What an unbelievable performance! Not the first time they've beaten Australia; they've beaten them before. But and you called it, Matt. Spot on. You
called
said
it,
Italy
called it
they
last
were going to
week.
beat them, and they did.
I just had a feeling, mate. I was impressed with Italy when they played South Africa. Before, I thought that they've been on the ascendancy. They've been, deserving of a win of some description, and I think they got it this weekend. So they got a good coaching staff, and I think genuinely, we were talking about this off air before. I think the scoreline flatters the Australians because they had a try gifted to them through the
I
TMO
agree.
where it was supposed to be some a rip. It didn't look like a rip. It looked like a full-on knock-on. Um, Harry Wilson knocks it on. The 10 picks it up, scores under the post, and then they get given so it would have then been if they had actually called it as it should have been. It would have been a 26-12 absolute thrashing of Australia by Italy, and for that, cheers to you boys. Is a great win. So Forza Italiano. Well done, the boys.
No, it was an amazing win, but again, they've been threatening for the last couple of seasons. We saw in that first test against the Box this year, they were really competitive and they really fronted against up against our forward pack, and they even scored a rolling maul try, which I was just shocked. I was like, I didn't expect Italy to maul the Springboks. So there's an intensity that Gonzalo Cosado has brought into this team.
Yeah,
They've got a real hard edge, and they're big boys. They've got a big team. And then with
yeah.
that midfield of Bricks and Menincello with Carbisi at fly off, they're very settled. So we shouldn't take them lightly at all. I think they're going to be a very tough game in Turin on Saturday, and they were good value for their win, mate. And may that continue. May they continue, because usually in the Six Nations, people say, is there a case for Georgia to maybe be included in the Six Nations? Does Italy deserve to be there? They only ever beat Wales these days. Like, now they need to go and prove to the world that they can really compete and they can finish mid-table or top two in the Six Nations potentially. That'll be the next challenge for them. But awesome win. Very happy for them.
No better motivation to look at the Six Nations tournament and go, we just beat Australia. Now I know every dog has his day, and sun shines on you at least once in your life. But I want to give credit where it's due. I think that they've been leading up to this building this, so they built momentum. They've got a good team, like you say. Their two Australian-born wings are dynamic. Liner obviously got a good try. As his name, I always struggle with. The other winger,
Monty Ioane.
Monty Ioane, he always is dynamic as well. He scored a really good try, really strong in the tackle to go over. And fair play to them, as two Italian playing yet born Australians. Like, that would have been a great day for them. I'm sure they would have cracked open a few cans
Yeah.
to celebrate that. But mate,
Yeah.
like I said before, that's where the buck stops for them because South Africa roll into town this week and it's going to be a different outcome, I think. So yeah,
Yeah. And I don't think Rassi is arrogant enough to take them lightly, and that's why it gives me
no,
confidence. I think he'll pay them the respect that they deserve, and they do deserve, us to pick a strong side and give it our all. So I think we'll be ready for that. But yeah, fantastic game. Let's move on to the next one, mate. This was one of the most fun games to watch over the weekend. Was the All Blacks playing Scotland at
good,
Murrayfield? You know
so
what?
good.
That reminded me of a very specific game we lost against the All Blacks in the pool game in 2019 in Yokohama. We lost to the All Blacks, and the reason we lost was there was 10, 15 minutes in that game where we lost concentration and the All Blacks scored two tries and they pulled away from us and we couldn't come back. And the same thing happened to Scotland. They literally
Mm.
two soft moments in that game just built that scoreboard, and they were 14-0 down, and I think it was 17-0 at one point, and they couldn't recover, right? They just left too much out on the field to make up, and apart from that, they were over the line 3 or 4 times where they just couldn't get the ball on the ground. Honestly, Scotland could have won this game, but as they say, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Yeah,
New Zealand
and that's
showed their
been
class.
so many times that that particular phrase has been uttered about Scotland and about them beating the All Blacks, or about them beating any major team. They seem to have that kind of in their arsenal of excuses. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like I feel sorry for them because if there was a chance, this is the chance, and they've been left wanting. Really good atmosphere, really good crowd behind them, really good game. The frenetic intensity was just you know palpable. And just bottle it and sell it and make millions. Like it was such a good game to watch, and I just thought in the end also the um, Kiwi reserves, DMAC in particular, coming on was the class that outshone everyone. And, you know, it's telling when someone comes on as a reserve and gets man of the match. So
Mate,
he was bloodied, he was bruised, he was bandaged, and yet he did some ballerina twinkle toes in the corner to turn around, evade two tacklers coming through and score the decisive try. Fair play, they deserve their win.
what did I say last week when they beat Ireland? Like, Damien McKenzie was the catalyst that turned that game, and he did it
Yeah,
again. He is unbelievable. Like, if there's one guy that I wouldn't mind having in our bomb squad coming off the bench, it's D-Mac, because he covers so many bases, right? He can play fly or fullback.
yeah,
He can probably cover wing. He's got a good kicking game. But just the impact he makes, I mean, he definitely has an argument of now potentially starting at fly off ahead of Bodie. Honestly, he's putting a lot of pressure on that position, which hopefully only brings out the best in Bowden. But that try, mate, there's not a player. I can't even, maybe Cheslin Colby. He's maybe the one player that could pull that finish off. How did he stay in field and how did he get that ball down? I still don't know. And then
it's
kicking that long range penalty to just take it away from Scotland, with that little smirk on his face, it was actually beautiful. And I've been critical of DMAC in the past, but fucking hell, what a player! He's unbelievable.
yeah, man, he's really good. He comes on with so much impact off the bench, but maybe that's it. I know that he starts predominantly for his provincial teams, and he starts other times for the All Blacks, but you can't deny the impact he has when he comes off the bench. And so, a bit like Quagga, in that maybe he's just a better player from the bench.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think other standout players for me on the All Black side, in the Lucies, I mean, Ardie Savea is as consistent as gravity, but Peter Lakai, what a game did that guy have? I mean, how many
Huge,
balls
eh?
when Scotland just Scotland would break the line and they would get momentum, and he would just steal the ball. He was immense. I thought Will Jordan was threatening from the back as always. The centre pairing looked a little bit more settled this time out. Um, it wasn't convincing from the All Blacks at all. Like I say, they had a lapse of concentration for 15 minutes, Scotland, where they defended poorly. New Zealand built that scoreboard lead and they couldn't recover. But Scotland, credit to them, mate. They're a good team. They're a really good team. But they will always just be between, I would say, fifth and eighth in the world. They need to start taking some big scalps. They need to start beating Ireland, New Zealand, England, France, South Africa potentially. Not that I want them to beat us, but if they really want to go on about how good they are, they need to start taking some big scalps. And they're
Yeah.
just not able to do that. They just don't have the firepower.
And it brings into question, how long does Gregor Townsend then hold his position if they can't continue to do that? Because again,
Yeah,
Gregor Townsend's one of my favorites of all time. I loved him as a player. I think he's a good coach, but um, coaches are measured and teams are measured on what they win,
100%,
not on how many
100%.
times, not on how many times you can say shoulda, woulda, coulda. We were close. We
Yeah,
could have just. We were almost there. All these kind of things that you can say. Like at some point, if they showed in the 65 odd minutes in that game that they had the ability to beat the All Blacks, why can't they replicate that kind of performance week in, week out on an ongoing basis? And is it a
Yeah.
strategy and or coaching issue? And if it is, do they need to change the coach? And I'm not advocating for that because, again, I really like the guy and I think he's dynamic and he's got a really attacking flair. But sometimes you just need a new head to get them to go from there to there consistently.
Yeah, interesting because he's consulting for the Newcastle Falcons, which a lot of people saying is a conflict of interest. But does that open a door for someone like Franco Smith, who's coaching the Warriors in Scotland? You know, to maybe because he coached Italy before, he's done international rugby. So I don't know. I don't think they change coach before 2027. Townsend will go through to 2027, and all depending on how the pool draws go and how they perform. You know, if they maybe push for a semi-final spot, he stays on. Otherwise, I think that's the end of his tenure. But we'll see.
Yeah. The phrase "shit or get off the pot" comes to mind.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, next game, Matt. A lot to talk about. England playing Fiji again. I mean, we said this about Italy and Australia. I think the scoreboard flattered England here. I
Yeah,
thought Fiji were real good value in how they played. And what I love about Fiji is historically they played a seven style rugby in the 50-man game, right? They would just run the ball from everywhere and throw it around. And they're really approaching the 50-man game from a professional point of view. You can see it's structured, it's well thought out. The attack is well thought out. Caleb Muntz at fly off is really pulling the strings, and then they've got Tui Sova, this monster in the midfield, who's
he
one of
said.
the best centers on the planet. They've got a really good side. Now, do they push for a semi-final at the next World Cup? I don't think so, but they'll definitely make the quarters. I picked them to make the quarterfinals, depending on the draw. I know it's still 2 years out, but the way they're going, I thought they were good value. England played well in patches, but again, like Ireland, I don't think they were that convincing. They wouldn't be. They'd happy with a win, but I think they could have played a lot better.
I think they're happy with the win. They're also happy with another notch on the belt. So that's 9 wins in the trot. I think they're building momentum. I think that squad is. They've got good leadership. They do have dynamic backs. And again, Fiji just stuck in the game, and we're a menace up until a point. I don't think the decision, the result was ever in question. I couldn't see England losing the game ever while watching it, but they didn't have the greatest day out on the pitch, and yet still managed to get a win, and roll on to the next one. So I think they've got
Yeah,
some good beliefs, some good momentum behind them. You know, strong forwards, good backs. I think that they're a formidable side. So again, anyone coming up against them, like South Africa, like New Zealand, etc., would give them as much respect and fair dues as you would playing France or Ireland. So not the greatest day out on the park, but they got the W in the end.
yeah. A win is a win, and still they won by 20 points, so they'll take that and
Exactly.
bank that. The
Yeah.
highlight for me in that game was seeing Henry Arundel back on the international stage. He's been sorely missed for 2 years. I'm a huge fan. I still dream
Yeah.
about that try. He scored for London Irish. I think it was in the Premiership a couple of years ago. Can't remember who it was against. But he ran literally from his own try line. He's just a
And he
freakish
moves,
talent. Like if you want,
he moves like a snake.
yeah,
Yeah.
if you want to get excited about a young guy like Sasha, like everyone's excited about Sasha, everyone's excited about Dupont, BLBRE, Faye Waboso, put Arundel on that list. He is world class, and he showed it again, just outpacing the Fijians to score in the corner. For me, that was the
Yes.
highlight. I'm very happy he's
Yes
back.
and no. Yes and no. Look, I think that was a good try. He dotted down, but I think it's the Fijian number 13 lets off the gas. Okay, any coach at like grassroots level rugby will tell you, you run back, you fall on the ball, you get back up, you make sure that you've got it protected, and then you go again, right? He's chasing back. He doesn't know Arendel's coming with gas, by the way, to burn. Um, and with about 5 yards from it, instead of running onto it, falling on the ball, he lets your man run through, and he goes, Arundel scores. And it's like, great to see him scoring, great to see that pace on the pitch again. Great to see him back. But that was a bit of a gift try in the end. Like, you didn't give up on it in fair play. You don't give up on it. You run through, you score. That's your try. But I think I would go as far as to say that the Fijian player gave him a bit of a hand in that by letting off the tank, literally about 5 yards from it, and he sweeps him.
Well, thanks for pissing on my battery, Matt. I still thought it was an awesome
If
try, but
if
I'm just
this is what I'm here to do, brother.
look. I don't get excited about English players often. I'm excited about Arundel. I think he's good, and he's not as
And
arrogant
then
as that little shit bollock.
yeah, and in a very little similar context, Reece Zammit being back, very similar kind of pace, you know, bulk, weight, style. And nice to see him back on the park as well. So good to see that
It's a
these guys that have been out in the ether a bit are coming back into the fold.
That's a great segue, Matt. Let's talk about Rhys
It
Hammett and
is.
the Welsh boys. They came up against Argentina on Sunday. Tough day at the office. Look, I would never thought Wales would beat Argentina. Argentina is a way better side currently, but oddly enough, I didn't watch the full game. I watched the highlights, but what I saw on attack, there's maybe a glimmer of hope there for Wales. Like they had some good attacking shape and parts. I just think defensively and physically they couldn't front up against a very, very good Argentinian side, and they had some really bad defensive lapses. But on attack, there's enough to build on, and I think hopefully they go from strength to strength. But that was a real tough day at the office for them.
Really tough day at the office. I did watch the whole game. I thought that the Welsh boys came out, played with a lot of pride. Obviously, the new coach, Steve Tenney, I think is. Um,
Tandy,
uh, Tandy, yeah, I saw him get interviewed before. Very proud day for him and his family. Very tough day at the office for him, because that is a record score line, both in terms of points scored against and points differential. I think I'm saying correctly. Argentina versus Wales. So they've never ever been beaten by Argentina as badly, and yet I think that they can walk away from that and take some positives. Like they were in it for a lot. They played with some flair. They got some exciting players, some of which they've kind of recalled into the team from out in the ether. They're obviously going through some administration issues where the four provinces, I think, are being consolidated down to three. What does that look like? What teams are going to be available next year?
yeah, yeah,
There's a lot going on, but I think that they came out into the pitch and um, they played with a lot of heart. And for a lot of the time, there was initially at least there was the suggestion that this could be a great day for them. And then, like you say, defensively they just went to shit. So epitomized by Pablo Matera. I think they've just scored straight from the kickoff, goes into his hands, and he manages to burst through. I don't think there was a hand on him. He runs out, no one around him, and he just drops the ball onto his left foot for the winger in the corner, who evades two defenders to go over and score. And I think that was just a killer blow. Like the crowd went quiet, and that was just, I think, the nail in the coffin, really. And then they were running away with
yeah.
it. So I think Wales were good value for good parts of the game, but it just shows once again that they're a long way off where they were before as a great rugby nation. And with Jack Morgan getting injured in going over and scoring the try, which looks serious, and I think he's out for a little while. He's
Yeah,
the
he's
heart and
out.
soul of
He's
that
out for the
team.
next one.
Yeah, he's the heart and soul of that team. I think it's going to be really difficult. But again, I think that they can walk away and take quite a lot of positives. From the Argentinian side, a stellar performance, both in the forwards and in the backs. They were exciting with ball in hand, and putting 50 points on any team is tough. And so fair play to them. They were worthy winners on the day.
Yeah, I think what impresses me about Argentina is how they're building depth in key positions, right? We talk about depth a lot, and France and South Africa and New Zealand building this depth, but I don't know what they're feeding these boys, and what the steak in Argentina and the chimichurri does to these boys, because they're just producing fly-offs left, right, and center. Not only can Matera kick with his lefty, but they've now produced three world-class fly-offs. I'm just kidding about Matera, but they've got Albanose. We know he's settled and he's good. Santi Carreras has been a mainstay for a couple of seasons now. He's world-class. And now they've got this guy, Prescantelli, who's had a really decent game. I was really impressed with
Man
him.
of the match performance. Yeah.
Whenever he came on, exactly, he was all over the show. I think he scored a couple of tries as well. So some tough choices for Contepomi to make over the next year or two to really figure out who his best option is. I still like Carreras at fullback. That gives them some additional attacking options, but we'll see what he goes with. So yeah, tough day at the office for Wales. Great win for Argentina, Matt. We watched so much rugby over the weekend, and there were so many great tries that was scored. And as always, we picked our top 5 tries of the weekend. Here they are.
As far as Wales are concerned, they've bounced back already in this contest from a significant deficit. Pablo Matera finding space. Looking for someone to link with. It could be Mateo Carreras. What a clever kick that is. Carreras has it. Ducks in field under the challenge of Edwards and gets the ball down. A try out of nothing.
Still got advantage for the scrum collapse.
They will look to wear down France, but Kobus Reinach tries to outsprint them. This is brilliant from Reinach. Kobus Reinach, a man who has the quality to create something from nothing.
Recycle and keep it going up to the halfway mark. Barrett. The All Blacks making Scotland make tackles early on. And now busting right through the middle is big Josh Lord. Looking to get the ball away to Roygaard, and Cam Roygaard opens the scoring. What a break by Josh Lord, and an early try. It will be checked.
Been all night. Marks. The carry there from Visa. There's Williams, on to Marks. Graham Williams. Ergir Snyman. Libok. Look at this, Feinberg and Gomezulu! That surely is it. Felix Jones celebrating with the new Centurion.
To find his skipper in the midfield, the Canivere. Sila. Muntz, a little surprisingly, finds the outside though. Rautamanda and Soakula, and the link play is brilliant. Oh, Kuravali thought he was taken out. Muntz fires onwards and scores.
So there you have it. Those were our top 5 tries of the week. Matt, some great tries. Which one was your favorite?
Maybe we talked about it already, but from one Mateo to another, I think the Mateo Carreras try. I know he dots down Pablo, aka Fievel Montoya, was instrumental in the try, but I think Mateo Carreras for me for the weekend.
Yeah, 100% great try. I'm glad we selected it as part of our top 5. I like Kobus Reinach's little snipe around the ruck and kick and chase. That just kept us in the game in the first half and helped us build from there. So had to see Kobus up there, and amazing rugby that he's playing at 35. A lot of players really stood up over the weekend, Matt. We discussed it, we debated it. We decided there's only one player that we could really give our MVP to, and that is Paolo Garbisi from Italy. And partly because he kept the scoreboard ticking with his kicking. He was very, very accurate. Very good in his distribution skills that you would expect from a fly half. And I think he was key in that massive win for Italy over Australia. You know, we looked at the Argentinian fly-off. A couple of other players, Sasha played well. It was like a weekend for the fly-offs. But really, if you look at the impact that one player had on a significant, result, it's got to be Garbisi for Italy.
I agree. I think he was so influential. He kept that line running. They dotted down a lot because of the vision and the space that he saw. and put them into. And as you say, he kicked really, really well to keep them in the game. And they did. They never, ever were out of the fight. So fair play to him. He's our MVP for the weekend.
Right, Matt, before we wrap up, we've got to quickly do predictions for this weekend's rugby. Some great games again ahead of us. The big one on Saturday at Twickenham, England playing the All Blacks. Who do you think is going to win it, and what's the score?
I think the train stops at station number 9 for England. I don't think it's going to be. It's a humdinger, right? Because I think England have built up so much momentum. When New Zealand come to town, they always get up for the game. And so I think it's definitely the game of the weekend. I just think, even though New Zealand are not playing at their best currently, they always get up for a game at Twickenham. New Zealand, they're not going to, take this lightly. I may have pie on my face, but I think New Zealand will just edge it. I think it'll be New Zealand by 7 or within 7.
Okay. Well, this is what makes this show exciting, is because I definitely think England will win. I don't think New Zealand wins the Grand Slam this year. I think England is slowly but surely building a very, very competitive team, a very, very good team. They're ranked above France now, and to be honest, I think they should be ranked above Ireland now. I think they're the third best team on the planet behind us in New Zealand. And at home, and if he picks the right players, Geordie Barrett's out. I don't know if Scott Barrett's going to be back. They're going to be formidable. I think it's going to be very close, but I pick England by 5. Another game, Wales taking on Japan at the Principality in Cardiff. Surely, Wales can win this game.
Wooden spoon. Is the wooden spoon on both sides? Look, I think Japan were good value this last week. So I actually think it'll be a good game. I think it'll be quite exciting. They both are looking to try and play a good brand of rugby. They just have holes in their defense, both sides. So we should see some good tries. But I think Wales should win this one. We could be surprised, though. Japan could actually win it and have one for the ages here. So my heart's saying Japan, while my head is saying Wales.
Now, I think Wales will sneak at 5 to 10 points, but they'll be good enough to beat Japan 100%. Next one up in France versus Fiji. Again, you would expect France to bounce back from that humiliating loss against the Springboks last week. Yeah,
I think Fiji played well against England. And if they could build on that momentum, then, it'll be a great game. But I still think France wins that one. So France by sort of 10, even 15.
Yeah, I think France by 15 that's about right. That sounds about right. And then another big one at the Viva on Saturday night, Ireland taking on the Aussies. Does Australia have enough punch? I mean, they're coming off a loss. Ireland is coming off a loss against the All Blacks and an unconvincing showing against Japan. This one should be tight, but I don't see Australia beating them.
The thing for this one is that they've both been a bit underwhelming of late, right? So they're either going to go out and try and throw the ball around and play some exciting, brand of rugby and go out and win it outright, or they're both going to limp and it's going to be sort of a dead rubber and one team is going to beat the other just by a few points and it's going to be a bit of a snooze fest. So I'm hoping for the former, not the latter. But Ireland against a somewhat underperforming Aussies. It's not the Autumn Nations series that they had last year. I think Ireland are going to win within 10.
No. Yeah, I think Ireland by 8 to 10 points. I agree with you. And then on Sunday, the last big game of the weekend is Scotland taking on Argentina at Murrayfield. This is a very difficult one to call. Because I think Argentina's good enough to beat Scotland, but at home and the way in patches that Scotland played against New Zealand, it's a really tough one to call.
Well, I think this is the telling game, right? So again, shoulda, woulda, coulda. We keep saying this. If Scotland are saying, or if Scotland can do what they did against New Zealand and replicate that, and have a consistent 80 minutes of that type of rugby, and again show they've got the ability to replicate that kind of performance week in, week out, then I think there's a chance that they could actually take the win. But my and again, my heart is saying Scotland can do it. My head is saying, based on the way that Argentina's been playing, they're going to smash Scotland. And smash, it'll be 15 points.
I don't think quite by that margin, but I think you're right. Everyone's saying, "Ooh, we've been talking up Scotland for years now. It's always, they've got all this potential to really play well." They don't. They don't. They're an average side. Argentina's a lot better. They almost beat us at Twickenham. They beat the All Blacks this year. They beat Australia. They smashed Wales. I don't see a different result. They've got a settled team. Contepomi is a mastermind as coach. I don't think it's going to be that comprehensive, but I think 8 to 10 points Argentina definitely takes it at Murrayfield. So, but that is actually, I think, from a spectator's point of view, that might be the game of the weekend.
Yeah, I think so too. It'll be the one to watch. Obviously, we'll be watching the South African and Italian game. We've already called what the result's going to be there. We're going to smash them, but that should be a good game as well.
Yeah, 100%. So much rugby on the weekend again, Matt. Thank you so much for your time. It's lekker as always, buddy, to talk about the rugby. And for the folks out there, I'm going to continue to remind you, until you do it, go and click the link in the description below. Show us some love. Go and subscribe to the new In From The Side YouTube channel. It's newly launched. We're going to post this video on both the Real Rugby and the In From The Side channels until the end of the year. And then next year, this is where you're going to see us. It's on our own dedicated channel. But thank you so much for your time. And go Bokke. See you next week.
Go Bokke. Cheers.